Welcome, 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 everyone. I don't know why I put my hands up every single time, Natalie. I'm sorry for that, but welcome to the Talent Experience live show, your weekly look at all things happening HR, hot topics, interviews with industry leaders, and of course, new HR tech. Welcome, everyone joining us from LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of the other social channels. We are happy to have you. If you are just joining us, feel free to share this. Sound off in the comment section. We love to hear from you. That's what makes live so special. Today, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Natalie. Natalie, how are you?
Good, Devin. How are you? I kind of feel like we're like a part of the Hunger Games when you put your hands up like that. So, welcome.
Very successful movie series. So I hope that we can garner some of that right. Success. Of course, if you never want to miss a Talent Experience live show, subscribe to our social channels. We are constantly posting new videos and fun facts. So definitely check us out there. And Natalie, I know that we have an exciting topic today. So would you be able to tell the people what we're talking about?
Absolutely. So today's topic is AI. And this is a buzzword that we hear all the time circulated in HR and industries alike. In HR specifically, it's really around how can we create efficiencies and help people recruit and source better to find better talent. So most HR practitioners welcome the integration of HI into their HR processes. According to a Future Workplace report, it's about 64% of them that reported in the 2019 study by Oracle and Future Workplace that they would trust a robot over their manager for advice. I don't really know how I feel about that,
but I trust a lot of robots. I like my manager as well. I trust a lot of robots, but I'm always fearful of iRobot, the Will Smith movie. So that's a little alarming, but it sounds like there are some people that are already using it, right?
Yes, and I think, the younger generation is definitely more comfortable with it and more comfortable with technology in general. So I think they're used to, we always talk about here at Phenom, the Amazon-like experience and serving up content. And I think from that perspective, that percentage actually kind of makes sense, right? Because it's people are used to being served up insights and content from other platforms. So why wouldn't it in the HR and professional space? So a couple of other statistics, 50% of workers are currently using some form of AI at work, compared to only 32% in 2018. So it's about a 20% jump in about 2 years. So this is also a rapidly changing landscape, which is not surprising at all in the world that we live in, especially the remote world that we live in. So what we're going to do today is really unpack in a short and sweet episode, just for you to learn a few quick things to help you navigate the conversations that you may or may not be having around artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that jump from 32% to 50%, I think probably has risen exponentially in 2020. Now with everything being virtual, it makes sense that AI has almost become this colloquial HR terminology, right? We hear it in all of our conversations, and oftentimes, do we really know what it means, right? And that's a question that we used to get at trade shows all the time, is everyone wants to talk about AI, but what does that mean? Does it mean that a robot is going to literally log in for you and do your job? Probably not, but it's being used in many different ways. And today we have a very special guest. We have Kumar coming on, who is our in-house AI expert. So without any further hesitation, we'll bring him on. Kumar, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks, Devin. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for joining us today and carving some time out of your busy schedule. So Kumar, first introduce yourself, and kind of what you do and what makes you the expert at AI or on AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. Hey, everyone. I'm Kumar Ananthanarayana. I'm the Director of Product Management here at Phenom. I've been working on the platform and developing features and capabilities across the board. But every time we introduce new capabilities on the platform, we are constantly looking at how we can leverage AI and how we can really help optimize the user experience across all our products. So I'm really excited to be on and help answer a few questions.
Yeah, from a customer perspective, we love Kumar. He helps us every day in the customer success world. So, Kumar, AI means a lot of different things. And we definitely hear, so from a high level leadership perspective, right? I think everybody's heard the just I want something with AI in it. Give me AI. And then, there's people in other departments who are saying, but what is it? How does it help me? So can you help explain it in layman's terms for the people who are joining in and listening today?
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, I think everybody has heard a lot about AI in the last couple of years. Just in terms of a simplistic definition, I would say AI is the science of training machines to perform human-like tasks, right? So according to me, A in AI is automation. So it begins there. So how can you help automate certain human tasks and really have the machine take over control is the basis of AI, and how can it make those intelligent decisions is the whole concept here. But oftentimes we've seen AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning being used interchangeably. And there's a subtle difference between the two. So if you want to clarify what that difference is, machine learning is a subset of AI. Artificial intelligence helps automate certain tasks intelligently, and machine learning is a subset that makes machines intelligent by training on large data sets, right? So to give you an example, instead of writing code and teaching the machine on how to make decisions, machine learning involves providing those large data sets, examples specifically, and letting the machine learn from those examples and make future decisions. So it could be as simple as differentiating between an apple and an orange. So you provide these images of these two fruits, and the machine learns characteristics and is able to really classify new data that's coming in. And it goes all the way to, let's say, self-driving cars and detecting tumors in humans, and Alexa, for example, which can do natural language processing.
Kumar, it's funny that you mentioned the difference between apples and oranges. Number one, because that's an example that we use all the time, right, when we're describing that two things are different. But it immediately reminds me of the show Silicon Valley, where they develop an app to decide what a hot dog is. So if you're a fan of the show, there's plenty of jokes that go along with that. But it's interesting that you have to teach it, right? You have to help it grow. And as we've noticed that just the terminology of AI has grown exponentially over the past few years, why do you think it's such a buzzword, such a trigger word for so many individuals? And do you think it will lose its buzz over time, in the same sense that, touch screen cell phones have kind of lost their buzz? That's expected.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think overall, there's so many groundbreaking features that are being developed from an AI perspective, and humans are looking to optimize, right? So there are certain tasks that they want to really give it to a machine to make certain decisions and help optimize their work. And even looking at, let's say, the HR industry, HR teams have always been looking to optimize. It could be prior to COVID, for example, where there was a fight for talent. It could be now, where there is a lot of investments into employee retention and reskilling capabilities. HR has always had to constantly readjust, and often with all those readjustments, it results in doing a lot of repetitive and low value tasks. And also, given the changing nature of the industry, there's immense pressure and focus on HR more than ever, right? And AI and ML is that tool that can really help HR organizations transform from being more transactional to being more strategic. And obviously, people are looking to hire faster, hire better, hire more in a more cost-effective way. And how do you really help HR organizations transform into data-driven decision-making organizations? So I think these are key problems that a tool like AI and machine learning can really help solve, and that would continue to be a very hot topic. And what we've seen is really the evolution of features that have manifested in products using AI. And as the algorithms grow, as the capabilities grow, I think there are more applications to those algorithms really there. And the emphasis is, in my opinion, not going to go away. It's only going to grow because with more and more capabilities out there that are proving its effectiveness, it's here to stay.
Yeah. So I have two questions for you. The first one being, how can AI help recruiters evolve with the times? But I think the other thing to drive home is AI, is it a set it and forget it type technology, or is it something that has to you have to cooperate with it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and a lot goes into, let's say, the quality of data that goes into training these algorithms, right? So if you look at, let's say, just coming back to HR, so what do we need to do to make things better? What do we need to do to set up AI so that it is really effective? There are a couple of key pointers there. The one thing I would definitely say is having all users really collaborating on a platform which is driven by a centralized AI is going to really help every other user on that platform derive benefits out of it. So that's key to it. Obviously, there's certain apprehensions in terms of biases that could be introduced in the algorithms and things like that. So it's not only important to really work on a system that has centralized AI, but also has robust bias detection frameworks built in so that users can very safely use and leverage and adopt those features and really help the algorithms evolve and learn.
Awesome.
Kumar, for those of you just joining us, we are with Kumar. I'm just going to say A because I do not want to butcher your last name, so I apologize about that. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that surrounding AI, feel free to drop it in the comments section. I know that we did put out a poll, and it was around, what do you want to learn more about when it comes to AI in the HR space? Is it chatbots, personalization, analytics, or fit scoring? And it really came out pretty even. Most people wanted to learn about AI and personalization. So as we all know, recruiters' jobs have evolved over years, right? You think of back in the day when we kind of just used to get spammed emails, that spray and pray method that used to be so popular, and now we are in this age of personalization. So how can AI help recruiters evolve with the time, and maybe specifically with that personalization aspect that people are interested about?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And specifically for recruiters right now, they have more to do with less resources, right? There's constraints on budget, there's constraints on time, and there's even more emphasis on quality. But with this changing times, there's opportunity to automate certain steps in the entire recruiting journey for recruiters. And if you look at a tool that leverages artificial intelligence or machine learning, these tools can really help transform activity into productivity. So if you look at the three most important tasks or things that take away productivity from recruiters is sourcing, screening, and scheduling. So if you look at sourcing, you can think about how can AI help identify the ideal candidate or an ideal employee for a job. How can AI learn from past hires that have happened to specific roles and really surface the right fit candidates for those jobs, right? If you're also looking at any matching and scoring technologies, all that can be automated using AI. So just bringing in the best fit candidates, even from external platforms based on a criteria is something that AI can really help transform the recruiter. Now, if you go into screening, in cases where there's high volume applicants, just having the ability to score and rank candidates based on certain criteria becomes very important, because there's no time to really go through every applicant that's coming through the gate. But in addition to that, can a recruiter get insights about other characteristics of the candidate? Can a recruiter understand if the candidate is really engaged with the brand? Are they going to convert if they invest their time in converting that candidate? Or in other forms, recruiters can leverage chatbots, for example, to automate their screening process. So instead of asking the same questions to the same questions to all candidates as a part of phone screen, can they leverage chatbot to really do all the information collection and really optimize candidates? Similarly, scheduling becomes a huge task for recruiters. So how can AI really use chatbots from a scheduling perspective, looking at calendar integrations to optimize the best possible time for interviews with hiring teams and things like that? Those are great opportunities to really optimize and bring back productivity for recruiters.
Yeah, definitely. So we got a comment here that I wanted to ask. And somebody from LinkedIn was asking, how can AI detect fraud applicants from genuine ones? And is that possible?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. There are techniques, there are different data points that we can use to detect that. There are algorithms in machine learning called anomaly detection. Those are algorithms that are typically used by banking software to detect fraud, things like that. So we can leverage some of those inspirations into detecting fraud applicants from genuine ones. They could be repeat applicants, they could be resume scanning that can reveal certain characteristics, just like how you can detect a spam versus not a spam. Those techniques can be used.
It's funny that you mentioned the algorithm for banking, Kumar. Anytime that I'm trying to buy my girlfriend a gift, I'm automatically notified that it could be fraud detection because I'm spending a little bit more than I typically would. But when you mention that, it's something that I never think of as being artificially intelligence. I kind of just think of it as a parameter that is set. I have a feeling that I know what your answer is going to be for this, but would you describe AI as being a must-have for recruitment teams today?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I think a lot of recruitment teams are transforming and really bringing back productivity using AI, and now is the time to really adopt. We typically advise our customers to take a crawl, walk, run approach in certain cases. Maybe start with the bot to optimize your phone screen, then bring on scoring and matching technology and really evolve that into other areas so they're comfortable with that. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, AI helps everyone get better, right? And it's not just that individual recruiter or the recruitment team, but the collective action of everybody interacting with AI will let AI become smarter, and those insights can be shared across teams. I think it's definitely the right time to bring it on.
Yeah. So similarly to that, and kind of building off of it, how can AI help recruiters who aren't necessarily looking for external talent right now? How can they be leveraging AI?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And I think it's very appropriate at this point in time where organizations are looking to really identify the best skilled employees who can really fill other roles within the organization and things like that. And I think AI can be used in a much more powerful way if you're looking for internal talent. If you're looking for, let's say, employees similar to the top performing employees, for example, that's an opportunity to use AI. And the real advantage of this AI on finding internal talent is organizations have a lot of data on talent, unlike a candidate where you might just have a resume and an application form. We've seen some of our customers leverage additional data points that can be built into AI to help optimize. So if you look at let's say skill inventory and skill gap analysis, that's a great application for AI. So how can you identify what skill sets are there in your employees and what roles they can transition into is a great application of AI. Another example is career paths, right? So employees can be recommended popular career paths or possible career paths, and employees tend to stay and grow their careers, and there's less pressures in terms of bringing in new talent. We also have the ability to look at organizational hierarchy, right? Where certain organizations have certain criteria for moving internal talent, or it could even be a use case of looking at performance management systems. So if you want to really compensate and grow your top performers, those additional data points can also be used into our AI algorithms or any AI algorithms and help recruiters fill in internal talent much better.
Awesome. Kumar, a lot of great information that we have covered today, talking about how HR teams need to embrace this, but we kicked off the show with a stat that was 64% of HR professionals would trust a robot over their boss. So before I give you the opportunity to give you your final thoughts or anything like that, do you trust a robot over your boss? And let's put this myth to rest.
I know who your boss is, so I'm really interested in knowing this answer.
I would say I would trust my boss and back it by a robot making data-driven decisions. So.
Okay. And actually, before final thoughts, we had another comment that just came through. How can we use AI video analytics in the recruiting industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a bunch of different applications of AI, especially when it comes to video analytics. It could start from just converting, let's say, an on-demand video assessment or an interview into text and just using that text to extract skills and identifying the relevance of those skills to those roles and really figuring out the importance of that skill or the proficiency level of the skill of the candidate to the role that they are applying. So that's kind of probably a safe way to do it. I know there are certain applications that look at facial recognition and expressions and really derive certain other parameters of the candidate and measuring fit. So that there are certain applications that do that as well.
Awesome. Well, Kumar, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll give you the floor for your final parting shots. And thank you to the LinkedIn family for commenting. We loved having you on. Kumar, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me again. Two parting thoughts. One, I think the time to embrace AI is now, as I mentioned. You can use a crawl, walk, run approach. It's not just chatbots that you put on your career site and really use AI, but how can you look to really grow your AI footprint and also identify spots in your recruitment process where you can introduce automation and see if AI can fit that bill, right? So even internally, we are calling this as talent process automation, where we are trying to help map out what that processes look like and where are the opportunities to optimize. So that's kind of one takeaway. The other thing is, I know there's a lot of point solutions that really deliver AI in a very effective way. That's great, but I think it's important to also think about how the learning from one AI system can be ported onto another. So does it make sense to really have a platform level AI where every learning across the board can really impact AI for everybody else is an important thing to think about. And yeah, I think that's what I had.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you the best, and we'll let you get back to your busy day of work, helping out Natalie and her team, right, with all the AI questions.
Absolutely, love it. Thanks a lot again.
Thanks, Kumar.
Thanks, Kumar. That was great having Kumar on. I learned a bunch. Natalie, how about you?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. He's a wealth of knowledge and really helps break it down. I think AI can seem really overwhelming to people and it can seem intimidating. And I think, Kumar did a really good job of breaking it down and showing how leveraging it can actually help give you less work to do, right? You do have to interact with it a little bit, right? It's just like you and I interacting. And if you told me something I don't know, I learned that and I keep that. Same thing with AI. You have to participate in order to help it improve.
It's like any, functional thing that we have. I mean, even if we were to compare it to humans, I know you shared with me this example, and I'm going to steal it live online right now. But it was if you were to, ask a toddler and an adult to look out the window and tell me if it's going to rain. The adult may do some research, may look things up, see clouds in the distance where the toddler says it's sunny now. It's not going to rain. And you kind of have to go through those experiences that we do as a human in order to learn. And the same thing with AI, right? You can give it the window to look out, but you have to tell it what it means, right? You have to understand the context clues there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Natalie, I know we have a ton of guests coming up in the future weeks. I am excited about it. We are going to have a recruiter talking about how AI has evolved and how it has changed their day-to-day. That's always a funny question, I think, to ask a recruiter is, what does your day-to-day look like? Well, most of the time it's a complete mess, right? When you think about it, interviews are canceling and different things are happening, but AI should really hopefully help them. And we're going to hear about what that looks like. Next week, we have a customer coming on talking all about gigs. So that will be exciting as well. But of course, don't forget to subscribe, put the alerts on, follow us on all the social channels so that you never miss an episode or some of the highlights if you are busy or potentially eating at this time, because it is noon on the East Coast. But Natalie, thank you so much for joining me today. I think it was another successful episode, and we'll see you soon.
Kevin. Talk to you soon.